Well, hello dear viewers. Now, I've noticed that a lot of my Scorn videos recently are getting rather popular, and my monkey brain tells me the number go up equals good. And lucky for you dear viewers, I have a lot more things that I want to talk about Scorn. And I think today we'll be talking about the story, what we know so far, right? Because we have all these speculations about what it could be, but I want to discuss what it is, what we actually know about it so far before the game releases. With the prologue, coming out before the game releases, that's I think about as much Scorn content as we're going to get before the final release. So it's good to put in all of our bets now on what things might be to see how many of us are correct. I want to go over just what do we know for definite. I'm not going to talk about the little mechanical things such as you got to put in these little pustules to reload the gun, you got to put in your fingers in these gross mechanisms to open doors. More the general overarching story. Although, mind you, on small mechanical things, I might say, on a Transhumanist Gamer's Twitter, he did tweet about this, that machine, that he said sucks in all the dead bodies and turns them into white liquid, but he didn't see how it worked since there were holes. And there was a comment underneath that mentioned that maybe there was a fleshy tube inside, like a gullet, that sucked them all in. And I would like to say that the official Scorn Twitter account did like that comment, which means we can probably confirm that to be true. But from the materials that the Scorn team at Ebb Software have actually released, what is it do we know that is true about the general overarching story? Well, the biggest elephant in the room to get out of the way is that they were a civilization that used flesh in the same way as technology. They merged it together in what HR Giga called biomechanics. There is a strange contrast here, in which this society is clearly one that does not value life. You can see this in how, well, life is just a tool to them. Like, some of them are grown on walls, some of them are grown in these pods, and yet weirdly enough they still have like sex, some sort of sexual reproduction that, even if not for procreation at least anymore, is used to indulge themselves. With all these effigies around, there's a somewhat worship of it. I feel the conversations we can have about that though can go into another video that I'm planning about the actual philosophy of Scorn, the people who inspired it. So for whatever reason, this society has collapsed under the weight of probably something of their own doing. It all came tumbling down and now everyone's dead, but the legacy of which they've left behind is still there to rot and decay, and we don't know how long it's been gone for. We don't know how ancient all of this is, or even how recent it is. And these chuckus, the things that are growing the red flesh, seem to be an invasive species which is actively destroying it. Now, if they existed before the calamity or after, then, well, we don't know. We're gonna have to find that one out. They don't seem to be integrated into any of the technology beforehand. They do seem to be an entirely new thing that's come in. They may be linked as to why the whole society collapsed, but we're unsure of that. There is these pods, however, that seem to be growing out the red flesh, and this may be linked to their downfall. It may also be linked to these chucku creatures. As just stated, we just don't know. There's a mystery, and I think there's going to be a lot of red herrings, really, when it comes to actually playing the final game. There is also this giant, terrifying monster that is hinted as lurking deep within the bowels of this world. Now, what link that actually has to, well, anything is unknown. It clearly has some big link because, well, it's pointed out very, very, like, strongly. It's given a focus point by the devs and by, what's his face? Fuck, I can't remember. His name escapes me. Doug Bradley, that's it, Doug Bradley For any of you who don't know who Doug Bradley is, he played Pinhead in Hellraiser. I think he played a few other horror characters that were in I think he was in quite a lot of horror films, but he's most notably known for playing Pinhead. He's just a famous horror actor, so quite befitting that he gets to talk about Scorn. I want to see, I want to see Doug Bradley make a bunch of theories on Scorn. Maybe he can shed some light on what's going on here. He seems to have just been told by the Ebb Software team what to say. So, we have, a decadent society built on flesh that worships sex, that was then destroyed somehow, and then all these little creepy monsters began infesting it. I say that because the Chuckers do seem like they're the only thing left, really. The only living thing left that kind of infest this place. Everything else, all the things that actually seem like they were part of the world before, have actually, they've died off. They're not really there. And when they do come back, like with the Mold Man, for example, he's kind of brought back. Like, he's not supposed to be alive. It's more of like a fluke kind of thing. And same with these other critters, like this pod guy, that we also see this silhouette image of him. He doesn't look like he's supposed to be around. I think he's going to be one of the enemies. And one thing that I'm also wondering is, so they have guns, right? They have weapons, which must mean they surely have like a military, right? They surely have an armed forces that can fight, unless the guns are just from like pest control. They're actually made to be used against this sort of thing, but then you'd think they're a flamethrower or something like that, wouldn't you? When do we get to see, like, Scorn tank, what kind of armoured vehicles they used? Maybe they have all the technology, they're clearly more advanced than we are. Maybe they've got like something like an Eldar wave serpent, but biomechanical, that'd be cool looking. But what comes after the calamity with our character specifically? Well, we appear to, wake up, right, from asleep. And you can see in the trailers that he's actually waking up, pulling an umbilical cord out of him. So I think the prologue isn't the Scorn guy we follow for most of the game. That's a different Scorn guy. If you want to learn more about my opinions on this, then look at my theories on the prologue, right? But what I can tell you about the prologue that I know so far, which I probably should have mentioned in that video, that the Scorn guy, especially because he dies at the end of the prologue, that's clearly, somebody else from who we play out in the rest of the game. But moving forward, we appear to be trying to get to this one building. And what happens when we get there, why we're trying to get there, I'm unsure. I had my theories about it, but we'll see when the actual game comes out. So generally speaking, if you can't tell already, there's not actually that much of the overall story. We have all the world building elements, we have other little snippets of very vaguely what things were used for, but the actual overall story of that, people want to know, how did this all happen, why is this all here, very vague. And I think that they can actually be more fairly assessed in the actual philosophy behind Scorn, which is the video that I want to do next. So if you'll stay tuned, apart from my Let's Play Scorn that I'm going to do when that comes out, you can catch my next video of Scorn, the philosophy of Scorn, where I go over the main inspirations of Scorn and the different philosophies and how that appears to be influencing the game. And of course, dear viewers, should you stick around with me, then we'll be experiencing this hell of a rabbit hole together. But until then, I'll be your creepy Uncle Phil, and I've been your creepy Uncle Phil, and I'll catch you next time.